Hey, what's up everybody? This is your boy Kenny, and this is my review for the Bobby Brown story part 1. Let me go to say this is awesome. And you know, shout out to Woody McClain, who plays Bobby Brown. Brother, you delivered in this part 1 of the series of the movie, and part 2 comes out tomorrow. But man, I was completely moved by this movie, and it actually brought a lot of clarity as to why Bobby Brown did some of the things he did. And I also love it because they literally brought, you know, some of the originals that were in the new edition story back to play the same roles in the Bobby Brown story. So I thought that was pretty cool, and they did an amazing job with this. So let me begin. It opens up where Bobby's on a stretcher. You see Whitney is like, you know, is praying and everything, and he pretty much, you know, talks about that he's seen a lot of death in his life, you know, and he thought by making it big and making a lot of money would help him escape from all of it. But then he's like, here it is, I'm here about to die myself. So let's just say he got to a point where he was near death, and I think they're probably going to spoil this more in part 2. But then it opens up 1980 in Orchard Park, you know, Roxbury, and he just came from his grandmother's funeral, and you can see that he's torn because he said his grandma was his biggest fan, and now she's gone. And that definitely hit me because, you know, I recently just lost my grandmother, and I have to say she was my biggest fan as well. So losing somebody that important to you definitely takes it really does take you down, and it really takes a lot out of you. But then he had his best friend, I think his name was Jeremy, and he was like, you know, and he was like, you know, he was like telling his best friend like she was my #1 fan, and he was like, fool, you ain't got no fans, let's go out and play. So they go ride their bikes and everything, and then they go meet up with some friends to play b-ball. Then there's some other dudes who try to, this dude who tries to like take their bikes or whatever. Jeremy and the dude gets into a fight, and then all of a sudden, Bobby goes in to help him, and then a knife falls out. Dude picks up the knife, him and Jeremy go back and forth, and he literally stabbed Jeremy. But I don't think he intentionally wanted to kill Jeremy, but because he had the knife in his hand and they was going back and forth, literally he walked and Jeremy walked right into it. And you know, and then we see that they take Jeremy home to his mother, who's played by Tatiana Ali, and he literally dies while looking up at Bobby. Now, can you imagine, and this is before New Edition. So before New Edition, he literally buried his grandmother and lost his best friend in one day. That is something that will never leave you. That is something that will constantly play into your mind over and over again. So this is the beginning of why Bobby Brown has so many demons, and why he was dealing with so much, you know, turmoil within his life. And then it picks up in 1985 after he's been kicked out of New Edition. You know, he's already, you know, the father of Landon, and you know, he's pretty much helping to care. He was also, you know, caring for his baby mother Malika, and so pretty much his mother was like, we gonna have a family meeting because we gonna talk about this. And we see that he lives with his mom and his dad. The woman that played his mother in New Edition stories still playing his mom. And they got T.K. Carter to play his father, which I thought was a great choice because he's a phenomenal actor. And they have a family meeting, and they go back and forth, and they was like, oh no, they think they just gonna shit on my son? and they just gonna just throw him away like he trash? Oh hell no. I will sue every damn person up in that bitch if I have to. Because we saw how Bobby's mother was in the New Edition story. She ain't disappointed in this one here, because she's about her son and is about her family, and she ain't the type of person that's gonna take no bullshit. She's a fighter. And we see that fighting edge he got from his mom. But then his father wasn't no joke either, because his father was telling him he needs to go to school and try to better himself. But his mom was like, nah, he got talent, and you know, here it is. They thinking that Ralph was the only one with talent. We need to figure out some way you can get out there and you could be bigger than him. And that actually happened, actually. Even though I'm a fan, I love Ralph Tresvant, but if you really want to go as far as solo career, Bobby had the most successful solo career out of all the members of New Edition. And that's just facts. You know, hands down. And you know, so we see that afterwards, you know, Bobby just tired of listening to the family meeting, because, you know, Bobby, the whole song, his signature song, My Prerogative, literally explains how Bobby was. Bobby had his own track of thinking and his own track of thought. In most cases, he didn't listen to people. He just did what he wanted to do. So he was just like, man, I ain't here for this family meeting. I'm done. I'm going out. He goes out with this girl to this dance, and then there's this drug dealer, you know, because it got to the point where Bobby started selling drugs to get by, because after he got kicked out of New Edition, he needed some way to still have an income, because he had a son to take care of. So here it is. He's at this club, and all of a sudden this drug dealer kind of bumps him and then starts talking big shit. Oh, look, it's Bobby Brown. You know, the dark-skinned, gap-tooth motherfucker. And, you know, you got the good-looking ones in New Edition, but now you got Bobby here. And then, you know, Bobby started clowning old boy, was like, I can't hear you because, you know, I can't hear your broke ass from down here. And then dude showed his gun and was like, oh, I'm gonna show you what's up. You know, you think you better than us and shit, and then you up here selling on my block and all this shit, and the next thing you know, they pretty much get into it, and the dude starts shooting. But then there was dudes who loved Bobby, and they jumped old boy. But then him and old girl got up out of there before, you know, because dude literally started shooting right up in the spot. So afterwards, we see that he goes to get his gun out of the closet. His mother catches him, and she was saying that, what the hell you doing with that? Because you know if you're going to take this up out of here, you know you're going to have to use it, right? And he was like, I got to do what I got to do. And she was saying that, no, me and your father do what we have to do. We worked our asses off day in and day out so that your narrow ass will have something more in life. And this is what you do? And pretty much she's saying that you really about to throw everything that we've done for you away. And then like Bobby comes back at her and was like, well, what about y'all? I mean, hey, here it is, people coming up in here buying your dinners, but then you also was selling bricks at the same time. What about that? And she said that, look, it was we, and she says that, look, I had my backs against the wall and I had to do what I had to do. Sometimes when you're a parent, you do what you gotta do. And he's like, yeah, and I'm doing the same thing. And she's like, it's not the same thing, but he ain't listened to his mother and he left. What she ends up doing, she like what it showed in the New Edition story, she calls Gerald Bugsby. I just need about 5 minutes of your time. I need you right now. So we see that Gerald Bugsby comes out to the OP like he did in the New Edition story, and Tank plays the role of Gerald Bugsby, because Gerald Bugsby was an asshole like shit. But he was like, look, I'm giving you a solo deal, just you, and he says that you need to hurry up and do this, because this is my last time coming out here in this bitch trying to get you to sign up. You need to, you know, get some sense, and you know, you ain't gonna get this deal anywhere else. So you need to hurry up and sign and bring your ass out here. But Bobby's hesitant because he knows that the shadiness of the business after what happened with them in New Edition, where they were being ripped off. They were working like crazy but weren't making any money. He's like, how I know you guys ain't gonna jerk me around like you did the last time? He's like, look, I'm giving you your own solo deal, and I ain't bringing my ass back here again, so you need to get with the program or it's whatever. So then we see, we actually see his brother Tommy, who's played by Mekhi Phifer, and he's his older brother, and he wanted Tommy to be his manager because Tommy went to college, and pretty much he was like, but I went to college for journalism. I don't know nothing about the music business. But he's like, yeah, but you real smart though. So I need somebody like you on my team who's gonna, have my back. Then we see that, then we get a glimpse of him doing his first music video for his first album. The song was called I Need a Girlfriend. It was actually a beautiful song, and I did listen to some of the stuff on his first album. It didn't really chart, and it didn't have any hits, but it had some good songs on it. And we actually also see Lil Silas. In New Edition story, he's played by Dwayne Martin, but now in the Bobby Brown story, he's played by Las Alonso. And we see him coming up, and he's got all these ideas and all this stuff. And we see that Tommy asserts himself as his manager and was like, no, Bobby's going to be doing this, Bobby's going to be doing that. Oh, yeah. And he looked good with the blue sweater. So that's what we rocking with. And we see them shoot the video, and then next thing you know, we see that Melinda, who's his baby mother's there, and they kind of get into it, and she was like, what is it? You need anything? If you need any money, I got you. And she was like, yeah, whatever. But she was mainly there because she sees that Bobby is still into other women, and she feels jaded, and she kind of was saying like, oh, so who's this? I need a girlfriend, so obviously it ain't about me, and he's like, I give you everything y'all need, I provide for y'all and everything. He's like, you give us what you need because that's what you're supposed to do as a father, don't act like you, she pretty much was like, don't act like you doing me no favors, you're handling your responsibility. And she definitely was upset because obviously she realized that Bobby was going to be Bobby. So then we see that Bobby hangs out with Ralph Tresvant. They, smoking some weed and they talking and everything. And he pretty much said that he pretty much is upset because his first album didn't even go gold. There were no hits on it. But he said that you have some good songs on it. He's like, yeah, but it really wasn't me. That's what they wanted me to do. I want something more harder, something more gritty. And, he starts, listening to hip-hop. And he was like, but dude, this is... And then Ralph was like, man, this is rap, though. He's like, yeah, but that's just it. I need this edge. And I'm going to create a whole different approach to R&B music. And like Ralph was like, shoot, that should be me. And so it's like, even after they departed from, even though after Bobby was out of New Edition, him and Ralph was still cool. So they pretty much, smoking and they chilling and everything. Then we see that Lil brings him back, and because Gerald Bugsby was going to drop him because that first album didn't sell. But once Lil said that he got Kenny, Babyface Edmonds, and L.A. Reid to work with him, he changed his mind. So, the second album, Don't Be Cruel, was the, that was the game changer and the one that broke out in a very big way. So, they're trying to introduce L.A. Reid and Babyface to him. This motherfucker is so damn cocky. He gives his drink to L.A. Reid, "Could you hold this for me?" And he talks to Lil, and he was like, man, what the hell is this shit? And he was like, look, regardless of what you may think, like, these motherfuckers dressing all like, like Shalimar and shit. So he was kind of going in on them. But he was like, Lil was like, look, these guys are it. These guys are gonna be major game changers in the industry. But then he was talking about, well, what about Teddy Riley? You know, he's worked with, you know, Heavy D and the Boys and so many other different artists. And he was like, yeah, rap artists. But he's like, yeah, but he also, you know, worked with Keith Sweat. And Keith Sweat's doing pretty good right now. But then Lil was like, well, you saying you don't want to work with Kenny Face, with Babyface and Ellie Reed's like, no, I want to work with them too, but I want to have a different edge to me. So we see he's in the studio recording "Rock with You, Baby," and you know like in the beginning of the song he has this interlude where he speaks, and they were pretty much like, nah, you know, that's a little too much. Won't you just do the song? And he was like, look, I can't do the song unless I can be me. You know, I got a different approach, but actually it's that intro that you remember, you know, once that song starts. So when he starts singing, you're automatically just like, wow, I'm feeling Bobby. Because, you know, Rock With You Baby was the shit. I love that song. It's a good classic. You know, so definitely it's one of my jams. Then we see in '88 he goes to the projects in New York to meet with Teddy Riley. And he was like, well, you know, some people funny about coming to the project. He's like, man, I come from the projects just like you. It's just the only difference between where I'm from and where you from is that y'all got taller buildings. So definitely him and Teddy Riley connected, and we know that Teddy Riley is the godfather of New Jack Swing. I mean, he produced for so many different artists, you know, Guy, Keith Sweat, sorry about that, y'all. Guy, Keith Sweat, Heavy D and the Boys. I mean, Teddy Riley was like that go-to producer for that New Jack Swing sound. And Bobby was smart, and you could just see how intelligent Bobby was when it came down to music, because he literally became somewhat of a pioneer in R&B music by merging his sound with hip-hop. And the song that is like his signature song was My Prerogative, and they show him doing the video, and that was hot. And then he ends up becoming the opening act for New Edition on the Heartbreak Tour. So he's like, so now you open it up for the motherfuckers who kicked you out. And then on top of it, to even make it bigger, you know, Heartbreak was number 3 on the R&B charts. Don't Be Cruel was number 1 on the R&B charts and on the pop charts. So it crossed over to pop. So here it is. That explains why in the New Edition story, why he was so cocky, because he surpassed them. You know, here it is, they kicked me out the group, but now I'm a solo artist and I'm doing better than them. And then they have a scene where, you know, he's performing in Georgia, and the Georgia police told him that he can't have any sexual acts or, you know, any aggressive dancing on stage, and to keep it clean. And then we actually meet Kim, and Kim is played by my girl who plays Tasha Skanks on Greenleaf. You know, Kim is his second baby mama, and at the time she's pregnant with their daughter, La Princia. And pretty much he goes and he sings one of my favorite songs from Don't Be Cruel, and that's Tenderoni. That is my jam. Definitely, that was a song that I grew up singing a lot, you know, because I definitely loved his voice on that song, because Bobby definitely had a very good singing voice. And, you know, definitely in those ballads, you know, you really get to hear how beautiful his voice is. So he's singing, you know, Tenderoni, and there's this young girl who's 18. He brings her on stage and starts to literally aggressively, you know, dance with her in a very sexual way. He puts his head between her legs, and then he gets her to ride on him and all of that. And they pretty much arrest him. But then again, yeah, you know, his brother was like, you know, Tommy was like, you hard-headed motherfucker. But at the end of the day, that actually helped with the album sales, and it made people want to see him more because he created so much buzz. And it also kind of goes back to what Eazy-E said, that even bad publicity is good publicity. So he also learned, you know, early on that, hey, I know if I, you know, ruffle some feathers, it's going to work out even bigger for me. So then we see later on he finally gets this really nice house in Atlanta. He moves his mother and his father out. You know, they move out the projects and they move to this nice mansion. You know, pretty much his little bachelor pad or whatever. And then we meet Brian Irving, who is gonna be, you know, a part of his management team working with Tommy. And, you know, he's played by my boy from Get Out, you know, good actor. And also he had plans of establishing his own label and his own studio. So Bobby was really on that entrepreneurial path, you know, starting out. That he was going to try to start his own label. He was going to build a studio. He was really going to do his thing. And then he also got an offer to be in Ghostbusters 2, but he said that if he's going to be on the soundtrack, he wants a cameo in the movie. And he got that. And then we also see, like, they actually had a scene while he's in the trailer for Ghostbusters 2. He got a black girl and a white girl, and he's taking turns flipping and screwing both of them in the trailer. And meantime, he's supposed to be in there working on the song for the soundtrack, you know, but Bobby busy, you know, being Bobby, you know, getting it in with the ladies. So then we also find out, you know, about his relationship with Janet Jackson. Now, this is before she married James DeBarge, so she's like around 18 or 19 at the time. And, you know, we see that, you know, so pretty much we actually see that when he was talking with his brother and everything, when he brought his family to the house, he was talking about, because he also has a house in LA, but he also has a house in Atlanta, and he's talking about, you know, Janet Jackson or whatever. And then he's also talking about Kim. And he was saying that, you know, dude, and like his brother was like, look, you need to kind of get this in order. I mean, Janet Jackson's a superstar. And Kim, you know, is pregnant with your child. I mean, you need to be really thoughtful about how you approach these women. But we actually seen in this that Bobby was in love with Janet Jackson. Like, he literally bought her a car for her birthday. And she literally was trying to get him to get rid of it. You know, you can't bring that here because, you know, quote unquote, he was too dark for her. Even though he was very successful and was established, and also because he had that bad boy reputation, she didn't want to be affiliated with that. So she told him to get rid of the car, but she was like, but I'll make it up to you. Oh, Janet and damn Bobby was fucking like Jackrabbit. You hear me? He had her on the wall. He had her throughout the entire place. So their sexual chemistry was everything. But you know, she was saying that, you know, we got to keep it discreet and all of that. And eventually, you know, Bobby just asked the question, what are we doing? You know, and she's like, tell me the truth. You up here dating this DeBarge dude. You about to marry him and crap. Like, what's up with that? You know, tell me the truth. Is it your family? Or is it because I'm black? And she's like, don't be ridiculous. Like, no, I'm not being ridiculous. It's because I'm dark skinned. You know, so this whole thing with colorism, you know, gets played out because they did mention that the reason why she didn't go for Bobby was because Bobby was too dark. But, you know, the Jackson family wanted her to date someone of a lighter complexion. And we kind of seen this throughout the Jackson family, you know, but not just with them, but also with you know, in the black community, there's still issues with colorism. So pretty much Bobby was like, I'm worth $25 million. This motherfucker's a backup dancer, and you would rather choose him instead of me? And she's like, I'm not going down this road with you. So eventually that led them to break up. So then they go to the Soul Train Awards in 1989. You know, this is the first time him and Whitney have run into each other. She like bumps him in the head, and he's like, excuse me, you bumped me in my head. And she's like, I know. So I'm like, she making it known that she flirting with him. And then they bring out Heather Locklear and James Ingram, and they start naming the nominees for Best R&B Contemporary Female. They named Karen White. And then they named Whitney Houston, and people start booing her. Yeah, this is the infamous Soul Train Awards where she gets booed because they were trying to say that she was too white, even giving her the nickname Whitey Houston, which just goes to show the ignorance and like the the stigmatism that she was getting because she had a major pop audience, so she had a very large mainstream platform, and some members of the black community kind of rejected her for it because they felt that she was a sellout and that she was singing music that didn't relate to us, which was insane and was completely ignorant. And we can definitely tell she felt some kind of way when she heard people booing her, and it definitely bothered Bobby. And then the other two nominees was Anita Baker and Vanessa Williams, and Anita Baker won. But Bobby connected with Whitney that night, and he was saying that, look, don't listen to them. They don't know what the fuck they talking about. You don't owe anybody anything. You're wonderful. So just continue to be you. And we see that instantly the two of them connected, and we see that Robin Crawford, Whitney's girl, Robin was not happy with that at all. Then we see that the two of them go out on a date, and on this date he sees that Whitney smokes, so he's already, because at first he's probably thinking that Whitney is this perfect girl, but it turns out that Whitney is just as down as he is. And the funny thing about it, before he met Whitney, he actually was talking to his brother at the Soul Train Awards, and he was saying that, man, I'm done with these industry girls, man. Like, I just can't. I need a real woman. But then he met Whitney, and all of that changed. But then it even changed even more when he realized that Whitney was a lot like him. That everybody got the pop princess, as far as her image, but Whitney's from Newark. Whitney was kind of like a hood boy meets a hood girl. And, that song, We Got Something in Common, that was real. And we see in this story that, yeah, they definitely had a lot in common. We actually see him come in with Teddy Riley, and Teddy Riley meets, him and Whitney meet. She's like, oh, yes, I'm a fan of your music. And Teddy's like, oh, yes, and I am definitely a fan of yours. So we definitely see that, here it is. She's now connecting with Bobby, and she's cool with the people Bobby hangs with. So Bobby's like, wow, I really found my soulmate. She gets me. And then, so then he was like, you don't care to be seen with me? She says, if I cared, I wouldn't be here. So that's another thing that really connected him to Whitney, because Whitney accepted him for who he was. And it's because Whitney was just like him, and he kind of unleashed that side of her when they became a couple. So then we see, him do Every Little Step, another one of my favorite songs from Don't Be Cruel. And pretty much after the show, he tells his brother, look, I want to be alone, no exceptions. And it's because Whitney was backstage. So Whitney was there, him and Whitney chatting up, and then all of a sudden he gets a knock on the door. He's like, man, somebody getting fired. And it's Kim with little Landon and little LaPrincia, their daughter, together. And she comes up in there, completely coming for Whitney in a way. She's like, oh yes, this is our daughter, little LaPrincia, and this is little Landon. His baby mother's you're probably gonna meet her at the end of the tour. And she's like, oh wow, you cute. You're like, you guys are blessed to have a child together. She's like, oh really? And Whitney's like, yeah, really. She's like, well, thank you. And I'm like, that damn Kim was feeling all kind of way and everything. So then Kim got to go off. She's like, yo, I'm getting tired of you disrespecting me, Bobby. So what? What is it? Is it and she's like, what is it? Why is it? Why you all up her? Why you like messing with Whitney for what? Is it because, is it because I'm not famous? And he was like, no. And she just got pissed off, like, it just kind of nudged him and then walked off. And then all of a sudden, you know, pretty much, you know, he asks Whitney, like, you know, is this going to be a problem? She's like, dude, I'm from Newark. It is what it is. You know, she liked him for him, and she knew about the baby mamas and all of that. And as I was saying before, it was like hood boy meets hood girl. You know, and then we see that, you know, they both get their love connection, and they're playing Force MD's Tender Love on piano. Then we see that they get together, they playing spades up in his Atlanta home and everything. Whitney steps off and goes to the bathroom, and his family's like, look, what's the hold up, bruh? You've been dating her for 3 years. When y'all gonna talk about marriage? You know, because she does have options. And it just goes back to what Mike Bivins said, that yeah, she did have options. I mean, she had dated Eddie Murphy, Robert De Niro, Randall Cunningham, so she had her pick of some A-list guys. You know, but Mike Bivins said she chose him, he didn't choose her. And we see in this movie that's exactly what happened. And I do believe that to be true, because Bobby became that force that allowed her to just be herself, because she was trapped in this pretty much this machine that Clive had set up, with her being the pop princess. And, you know, with Bobby, she can be bad and she can be reckless, and she knew that Bobby would kick any ass of anybody that came that tried to mess with her. So Bobby brought out that he brought out that edge in her. So we pretty much we see in this situation, he ends up, you know, shacking up with Kim, you know, and then ends up shacking up with Whitney. So he ended up getting both of them pregnant around the same time. But she ended up having a miscarriage while she was shooting The Bodyguard. And we see that when Bobby were going, when Bobby and Whitney were going back and forth, forgive me, y'all. When they were going back and forth, we saw Robin was sitting there just looking with such disdain against Bobby. So we already knew that, yeah, Bobby and Robin did not get along from the start. And we definitely see that, yeah, that, you know, she ends up losing the baby. But then later on, he starts working. So then while they're in, yeah, because by this time that she had lost the baby, they were engaged. So he was engaged to Whitney, but ended up having another child with Kim. And then, you know, during his second album, you know, that has the songs like Get Away and Humping Around, he's taking pictures, you know, for the cover, you know, the infamous cover where his back is out or whatever. He pretty much, and pretty much during that shoot, she tells him that she's pregnant again. So, and he's ecstatic, he's happy. Then we get a scene where he tells his management team he wants to combine his business with Whitney's business. You know, we're about to be married, and, you know, what's mine is hers and what hers is mine. And they both were advising him that that's not a good idea to do that, because, you know, at the end of the day, you know, you need to be protecting your own interests. You know, what if things don't work out? You know, it's gonna be a big old mess. And he was saying that, but Bobby wasn't hearing that. Bobby was like, look, you guys already, you know, downplaying this before we even get married. He's like, no, you know, and he's like, nah, I'm not going for that. So we definitely see that, yeah, my prerogative is how Bobby lived. So pretty much we see that they pretty much, you know, then they show like the 1992, you know, wedding of Whitney and Bobby. Bobby's locked in the bathroom and is like literally drinking and won't come out. You know, Alicia, who pretty much, you know, works at the who works at MTA, and she's also like a producer or whatever. She goes into the bathroom, and she has a conversation with him, and he's pretty much saying that he's nervous and, you know, he's got jitters, but he's saying that, look, you know, people believe that Whitney is this pop princess, and they feel that I don't deserve her. And then I even sometimes feel that way. And then also, this was, you know, after she had the miscarriage. But then Alicia was like, do you love her? You know, and she said that, look, be thankful. And by the way, she's probably just as nervous as you are. And then he comes out the bathroom finally, you know, because they were literally banging on the door and Bobby would not come out the bathroom at all. So finally he comes out the bathroom and he sees that Whitney's doing cocaine. Robin comes to try to take it from her. She's not doing it. She's like, okay, fine, you know my secret. I do a little coke every now and then. And they get married, and it was during his second album shot that she actually gets pregnant with Bobby Christina. And then we actually see that Whitney and Bobby's drugs, you know, drug use just escalates. And we see that there's one scene where it's like 4 a.m. and he's knocking on the hotel room door. And she got the chain on and she's like, you got the stuff? And he was like, look, my connection ran out. But you can see that there's like some white powder on his nose. So he literally did the drugs before he got it back. And Whitney was like, okay, well, if the connects was out, then you gonna be out of here too. So she shut the door on his ass and wouldn't let him in the hotel room. So he ends up, you know, staying at Melinda's house. By this time, Melinda is now remarried. You know, she's married or whatever. And, you know, and then, like, we actually see that little Landon is there. And so therefore, we see that the connection's still there between him and his son. Even amidst all of his stuff, he still, you know, was a good father. And then he makes it up with Whitney by buying her this necklace and earrings, and they both get into it. So, you know, as far as making out and everything, so that worked out. So then we get a scene where their mother goes off on Tommy, and she's pissed because, you know, they got a second notice to vacate the premises because he's not keeping up with his payments. You know, and he pretty much tells her that, look, Bobby is losing it. Him and Whitney been at that house getting high day in and day out on coke. You know, they got a dealer who delivers it to him in their mailbox. You know, that's what's going on. And it's like, well, who's watching Chrissy? He said, well, she's being cared for by the nannies. And pretty much she blames him for the fact that he's fallen off. And he was like, really? You gonna blame me? I gave up everything for him to treat me like I'm a cancer and like I'm a piece of shit, you know, and you put this on me. And then his father was like, you better watch your tone, boy. And she said that, yeah, I'm blaming you because he chose you for a reason. He didn't choose me. He didn't choose your father. He chose you. Now you will do what you promised him and what you promised me. So we get a scene back at the house with Whitney and Bobby. Bobby done cooked some food up for him and Whitney. Robin's sitting there, and she literally starts eating off of Bobby's plate. Bobby's like, Robin, you ain't gonna fucking act, young? Like, that was my plate. You know, how you just gonna eat my plate? And then Whitney's like, don't even worry about it, baby. Just go in there and make you another one. And she's like, well, hey, you right, your boy can cook. And he literally took the plate and threw the food off. He was like, look, bitch. I got a fucking name, and I'm her husband now, and you in my house, and you gonna stop disrespecting me and shit. And she backed up. She was like, first of all, this ain't your house. Whitney paid for this house. Whitney paid for everything up in here, you know, and I was here before you, and I'll be here after you. And pretty much they were looking like they was about the brawl for real. And he was like, well, first of all, what's mine is hers, and what hers is mine. So therefore, you in my house, and you got 5 seconds to get the fuck up out of here before I do something to your ass. And then Robin's like, looked at Whitney's like, you gonna let him talk to me like that? And Whitney just didn't say shit. And she was like, and then he kind of gave her a look like, bitch, you want to see me? So she ends up walking off, and he tells Whitney, like, look, I'm your husband. I don't know what this thing you got going on with her, but it's over. You know, so eat your food. So she fucking throws the food. It's like, she throws the food on the ground. Was like, you eat it. And then we see that Tommy shows up, and him and Tommy go back and forth about his situation. And he tells them that, look, they want you to do a reunion album with New Edition, and you know they willing to put up $1 million for you. He says, I ain't doing it unless I get 6. And he like, bruh, really? You were tripping. And then like he pretty much, you know, talking about like, look, if you can't give me the $6 million deal that's for them, why the fuck you here? Why you my manager if you ain't gonna handle shit? And he's saying that, look, you need to handle shit or you're gonna be fired. And he was like, oh really? Who you think gonna be your manager if I'm not here? What, Whitney's managers? He was like, yeah, Whitney's managers deliver, unlike you. You know, if I actually had a team that actually worked for me and did what the fuck they were supposed to do, I'll be further ahead and my album would have been more successful. And he was like, first of all, your album wasn't successful because you ain't putting the work in like you used to. You ain't hungry no more. And he was like, oh, you know what? You fired. So he fired his brother, and then he tells him like, okay, just take care of the situation with the house in Atlanta. And today's LaPrincia's birthday. You got her a bike. And I'm like, see, Tommy was handling shit, but he's so far going to his drug world, and due to the fact that it's his prerogative, it's like his word only matters, and he tunes out any sense of reason or consciousness that comes from anybody else. So then we actually see that he goes to see Kim after him and Whitney get into it. So he goes to Boston, and pretty much he wants to see the kids or whatever. And she's like, fool, it's 11:30 p.m. at night, and it's a school night. I'm not getting the kids up. You can come at the morning when you sober. And he's like, besides, who you got in the car? Some girl, your next lover or whatever? He was like, no, it's Steven. He's my sister's fiance. You know, she's like, look at you all up in my business. And that's because Kim still wanted his ass. But we actually go out and see that, you know, he goes out to talk to Steven, and he's asking, why you want to marry my sister? And he said that your sister's the only person that ever believed in me. Even my own mama told me I wasn't going to be shit. But she believed in me. She saw something in me. And we actually see that there was a dude that was kind of lurking and looking at them when they were in this club or whatever. So they go out, and then they go get in a car. We see there's a car that's like, you know, that's kind of like pulled up, and like, you know, and Lance Gross plays Steven, and he's saying get in the car. So they get in the car. Next thing you know, you see the car comes up and they start shooting, and Steven gets killed. And that's another death he had to face. You know, his about to soon to be brother-in-law, and him and Bobby were cool. You know, he was happy that he was gonna make that he was gonna marry his sister, and that he knew that he was gonna make his sister happy. And just like that, he lost him, just like he lost his best friend when he was a kid. And we see that this is what has started. This is one of the things that made him the addict that he became, because he was hiding from so many demons and a lot of hurt that he experienced growing up. So that's pretty much part 1, y'all. If I missed anything, put it down in the comments. And I love that they played this song by Nina Simone, Please Don't Let Me Be Misunderstood, because Bobby Brown, I have to say, even from me growing up, I didn't fully understand him, you know, and that just goes to show that Bobby was misunderstood by a lot of people, not realizing this is a man that was hurting, and a man that had a lot of demons and a lot of heartache that he was dealing with, and it made him the way he was. So that's what I have. Again, if I missed anything, put it down in the comments, or if there's certain things that jumped out to you about part 1, I definitely love to hear your thoughts. But subscribe to my channel. Click that bell so you get notifications every time I drop a video. Also, follow me on all of my social platforms. I have them all listed in the description box. Also, like this video, comment on this video, and share this video. And I'll be back with part 2 of the Bobby Brown story. So until next time, everybody, take care.